As we've been reporting, those inflation numbers could lead to the RBA lifting rates in the middle of this election campaign, like the central bank did back in 2007. Ross Greenwood is with me, our business editor. Ross, economists are now saying the RBA could start hiking rates as early as next week. That's certainly the view of our friend Warren Hogan, who was on the program a bit earlier.
Well, yeah, and it would appear as though right now the Reserve Bank is behind the curve in terms of raising rates. And indeed, there's been a chorus of economists out this afternoon. You can actually take you through some of the comments that have come since this 5.1% inflation rate has come out. And we'll take you through, what some of those economists have actually had to say. So, say, for example, from Beta Shares, there's David Bassanese. He's come out and basically said today, today's higher than expected consumer price index confirms my view. The Reserve Bank should and will raise interest rates next week. If we move further on from that, there's also a number of others that have come out today with similar comments. Here's BIS Oxford Economics, Sean Langcake. The increasing breadth of inflationary pressures means that the May board meeting is in play for a rate hike. If we keep going from there, we can see that Deutsche Bank, Phil O'Donoghue there, our baseline is for a 15 basis points, 0.15% if you like, hike at the May meeting, followed by a 50 basis point hike in June. Keep going from there, and we actually see that there's more. The National Australia Bank has come out and now said it believes that the next rate hike is going to be in May, which is next week. The ANZ has come out and said it believes the next rate rise is going to be next week. So what you're really seeing is that this has changed the dial in regards to the talk about interest rate movements in Australia. The Reserve Bank, it's seen, can't afford to wait, and part of the problem is underlying inflation. What that means is its measure is normally between 2 and 3%. Today, it's gone to 3.7%. And indeed, this was the biggest increase Australia has seen in inflation since GST was introduced in the Howard government years.
And Ross, take us through some of the detail now of the prices rising the fastest.
So this is what this is what the Reserve Bank somehow has missed along the way. I mean, the ordinary person could have told you this, simply by going to the supermarket. In the past quarter, fruit prices up 4.9%. Soft drink and juice prices, they rose by 5.6%. The price of beef up 7.6%. Petrol up 11%. But, here's one that most people have missed so far, and that is what's called non-durable household products. They rose by 6.7%. So that, Kieran, is basically toilet paper and paper towels. None of that stuff is non-essential. That's absolutely essential. So people can't even avoid these price rises. And here now is the inflation figures around the world. Now, the Prime Minister and the Treasurer today spent a lot of time talking about this. Don't worry, it's not as bad as it is in other parts of the world. The problem that they've got with that argument, and indeed we'll put that to the Treasurer when we speak to him on Business Now this afternoon, is that Australians don't live in Germany, in the UK, in the US or Japan. They live in Australia. They're living through the price rises now. And of course, they're also going to have to suffer from big increases in their cost of living when mortgage rates rise. So I've done a quick calculation today, Kieran, and if interest rates rise by 3 percentage points, as the markets say they will, if you've got an $800,000 mortgage, that is worth about $16,000 a year in extra costs after tax for your family. And that's a fairly typical mortgage in Australia today. So again, it just depends on how far these rates rise. That's going to be important for that cost of living and the pressures on the Australian economy.
And the Treasurer copped plenty on rates and how the RBA might respond. Understandably, he's going to be on your program later, but he's already copped a few questions on that front at that news conference.
Yeah, he did indeed. Let's just have a little listen to what he had to say and how he responded to it, because it is instructive, because it is certainly now very much in play in this election campaign.
They have said very publicly that before moving on interest rates, they want to see where inflation is and being steadily within the band, but they've also said they're looking to see wages increase as well. And so I'll leave those decisions to the independent board of the Reserve Bank.
So, Kieran, this number today is a surprise, there's no doubt. It's much higher than what the forecasts were, and it's certainly not the number that the government would have welcomed, especially at this stage of the election campaign.